So, I've been seeing some posts on the Reddits and some other forums and other places where people talk, Discord channels, everything like that. Seen a lot of confusion about um, how things work in the game. One of the biggest things I've seen is people asking for a guide to PvP. And I think the reason why most people aren't seeing any sort of guide, quote unquote, to PvP is because this isn't like other games. This isn't a PvE centric game. The only thing there is to do in this game of any use or value is to PvP. So essentially, everything you're doing is preparing yourself for PvP. But that being said, I think it would be helpful for some of these people coming in from other titles that look nothing like this game, essentially, um, to just get some basic tips on how the targeting works, how the healing works, how the DPS works, all that stuff, grouping, positioning, everything like that. I think it would be really helpful. So I'm just gonna make a video on it. Just as a sidebar, um, I realize a lot of people are going to say before they finish this video, but wait a minute, you never told us how to prepare for PvP. Here's how you prepare for PvP. Get to level 30, buy some vendor gear, find a group, join a guild. That's how you prepare for PvP. That's it. Make sure you have your talents set. Make sure I would suggest getting all three minor disciplines, both major disciplines in your talents. Um, and then group up and go look for a fight. So the first thing I want to show you is just the basics of how I guess the hitboxes work in the game, how body blocking works, things like that. I think a lot of people coming from a tab target MMO like a World of Warcraft or something like that might get a little bit confused. So here, I'll play that clip one more time. You'll see that as I'm standing there, I'm taking hits from him. I move behind Sklat, and he starts taking the hits instead of me because he's body blocking for me. This isn't like any kind of a new thing. I feel like it should be showed. Some people maybe don't play action MMOs like Guild Wars or titles like that, so maybe they need this explained to them. You can use this to your advantage by blocking. If you are a character with a shield, you can stand in front of your teammate, you can block, it reduces the damage by quite a bit. Right here, I'm kind of showing it. Hold on, he's about to block. Right here. 58 damage rather than, 144, 168, whatever it was saying in there before that. So, a lot of times, body blocking is used to help your teammates. You can use this to your disadvantage by falling behind one of your teammates and having them eat your heals for you, like I'll show you here. So Arcani just healed me. Now he's going to throw out another heal in just a second here. He hits Sklat, even though he's aiming for me, because the body blocks work both ways. If you're an enemy, you take the hits. If you're a teammate, you take the heals. So, yeah. The most important aspect of the healing I think I need to explain to new players, though, is that most of the heals are not click and shoot abilities like the cleric has, or like I just showed you right now. Most of the heals in the game are either cast onto the ground and they're an area of effect, or they're cast onto the ground and they need to be picked up by the player who needs the heals. So you can see here, the cleric casts his area heal. I move out of it. I move back in. I'm getting the heals again. I move out of it. I'm not getting the heals. And that's the way it goes. So, yeah. I'll show you the Druid heals in just a second, Druid heal orbs. Okay, so you see here, I am low on health, and I'm going to cast some Druid orbs on the ground. And you will see that when I pick them up, my health goes up. See? So for a lot of the heals in the game, it is required for either the player to pick them up, the caster to cast them at the feet of the player. There's always got to be some kind of coordination going on in order for you to accomplish things in this game. And that goes for just about everything, not just the healing, not just, I mean, literally anything you want to do in this game is designed to be a team effort. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into the other healers here. What I showed you was the Cleric and the Earthkeeper. The Earthkeeper was the Druid, which was the second one. There's also an Ice Caller, which is a Frost Weaver sub-spec. And there's the Paladin, which is a promotion class for the Templar. Both of them use the same type of healing things I was telling you about, which are a teamwork-based heal system that goes off in an area, and people need to be aware of where they are, or they need to be cast skillfully at the feet of your teammates. Which I know may not sound terribly skillful to the listener, but when you take into account that these fights are moving and you need to predict your team's movements and the enemy's movements and then place these heals down in the right place, there is a lot of skill involved in it. So I guess the next thing you want to ask yourself is, what should my group composition look like? It's not too different from other MMOs. It's very similar with some, I guess, very minor differences. Basically, you want a tank, 2 DPS, and 2 healers. And what classes you want your 2 healers, your 2 DPS, and your tank to be are really dependent on your own personal preferences, but there are some things to consider if you plan on being the most effective group you can possibly be. And in my opinion, and I think most of the experienced player base agrees with me, your best choice for a healer is almost always going to be a cleric. There are a lot of reasons why clerics are considered to be some of the best healers in the game. For one, a larger portion of their abilities are point and cast than other healers in the game. Like, for instance, the Paladin has an AoE heal, but it's only cast at his feet, and can't be cast at a distance like a Cleric's AoE heal could. And one of the main healing abilities of an EK is his orbs, which he casts on the ground, which needs to be picked up by the player that needs the heals. Which is all well and good in small scale conflicts, but when you wind up being in a 20-man raid group and people need to find your orbs on the ground, it can be a little bit not ideal. But that's not to say that EKs aren't one of the best healers in the game. They are, and they're used very often because they're incredibly good healers. I'm just simply saying that different healers work for different size groups. Paladins maybe aren't going to be used in a small scale group, but they're going to be used in larger scale groups. Same thing, just the opposite with EKs. EKs are going to be used more in smaller groups than they are going to be used in larger groups. This changes based on whatever guild or group is playing, but that's just what I've experienced in the months that I've played the game. The way that I build groups and the way that the people that I play with build groups usually are building these groups with one goal in mind. And that goal is essentially to punch up into as big of numbers as we can possibly handle. The way to do that is with coordination, but before coordination, you need a solid composition. What's a solid composition? Well, you've already got your 2 clerics, or 1 cleric, 1 EK, 1 cleric, 1 paladin, whatever you want to do. I already said that I am going to recommend you go with 2 clerics. But after you get your healers, the next step in order to make a group to punch up is to find some AoE DPS. And I currently would recommend a Stormcaller for that role. That's just based on the current build of the game. It seems like Archmages and Confessors also fill the AoE role very well, but just not as good as a Stormcaller right now. The next thing after that AoE DPS is you're going to want a hard carry DPS. I would suggest a Confessor for that because he does add some more AoE to your party, which increases your punch up potential. But let's say you're playing a Paladin or something like that, instead of doing 2 clerics, maybe you want to do some melee, so maybe you can do a Titan Myrmidon instead. But I do believe adding in another melee could potentially kill some of your survivability and punch potential if you replace the Confessor for a Myrmidon or something in that vein. Now we're down to the last role, which is the tank. For this role, I personally like either a Pit Fighter or a Knight. Pit Fighters are usually built to be a debuff tank. They are just built to survive. They don't require a lot of healing. And so a Pit Fighter can stay alive without very much healer intervention. And he can outfit himself to be putting massive debuffs out onto the enemies, which will help your team. And if he gets focused, it just helps you. If he doesn't get focused, he's debuffing them. It's a really good option to roll. As far as a Knight goes for the role of tank, I think I like that a little bit better, especially in this meta. You got a chain pull, which could create some really big picks for your squad, and that helps out a lot if you're in a small man, especially if that small man is going up against a much larger group, which is, like I said, what we try to make our groups to take down. So judging by everything I've said up to this point, you should be level 30, have at least some basic white gear in your inventory, have selected and set your 2 major disciplines as well as your 3 minor disciplines, depending on the build that you're going with, and have either joined a guild and met some people or have worked with your friends to create a well-comped group that you can now go out into the Infected or the Dregs game worlds and compete. As far as activities you can do in the PvP game worlds, I'll give you some basic bullet points just to keep this video somewhat short. Some ways to find PvP are to go to some of the smaller capture points around the map, like you saw in the last clip that I just had in this video. Those control points are going to consist of god shrines, which can give you 2-hour buffs depending on which god the shrine was erected for. Respawn outposts, which are pretty self-explanatory. You can respawn at them. Or general generic control points, which are usually control towers or campfires next to roads. These don't really give you any benefits besides, I guess, some protection. If you're being attacked by other players, you can run to the guards, but the guards aren't going to help you all that much, to be completely honest. They're mainly a point per turn type of thing to move the dominance score of the current Infected or campaign game world. The more competitive or worthwhile objectives to try to take during these campaigns or in the Infected game world are forts, which are essentially material spawners. Every hour they spawn a certain material, and if you control the fort, you can go and collect that material and put it in your bank, and it's yours. The next step up after forts are mini keeps. Mini keeps function as the home base for your guild. You can build walls around them. You can put different types of buildings in them that can either be crafting tables for your crafters or buildings that give you buffs. There can be different vendors in your mini keep depending on which buildings you build. It's basically just your home outside of the temple, your home inside the campaign or the Infected game world. After that, you can take it a step up to a larger keep. The larger keep is basically the exact same thing as the small keep, but you can fit more buildings in it. The walls can go to a higher rank. It's harder to take. You need more people to take it. You also need more people to defend it. So it's a trade up. If you have a bigger guild, you're going to want the bigger keep. If you have a smaller guild, you're going to want the smaller keep. But the last 3 things that I just mentioned, which were the forts, the mini keeps, and the keeps, are all things that can only be taken during siege windows. The current siege windows try to happen at the prime time of the game right now. So right now, the prime time siege hour I think is 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. When that hour opens, these keeps become vulnerable to attack. When the hour closes, the keeps are now invulnerable to attack again, but the guards can be killed. Another small man activity you can do with your group is run pack pigs if you guys aren't big enough to take a fort, or maybe just, aren't able to. And you can use these materials that you get from the pack pigs or forts to then build your keeps. And those are basically the bullet points. So one more time, here's what it is. Get yourself to level 30, buy yourself some vendor gear, get yourself some majors and minor disciplines, find a guild, find a group, make sure your comp is good, and then head out there to take some circles, run some pigs, try to get your hands on a fort, try to get your guild a mini keep or a keep, or just roam around looking for fights like I normally do. Another thing you really need to do as well is go out and farm some war tribes. For the majority of the time that I've played, I haven't found gear to be a huge factor in PvP until you start to actually make some good stuff. But when you're first starting out, it will be helpful to go out and find some captains, find some chiefs, find some kings that roam the war tribe camps, kill them, take their gear. You are going to need to kill them to outfit your next level vessels, which is a whole nother can of worms entirely. The long and short of it is you start off on a basic vessel, which is your character. He has a certain set of attributes, a certain number for each category. And as you become, or if you find a necromancer that is a high enough level, he can take body parts that he digs from graves, put them together, reanimate them, trade it to you, and then you can go make another character with higher base stats than the character that you had before. And once you get that character, you now need to put major disciplines and minor disciplines into him. But you can only get the ingredients to create the major disciplines for higher level characters off of named thralls, which exist in the PvP worlds. And you can only get minor disciplines off of chiefs, captains, and kings, which also only spawn in the PvP game worlds. And to tell you the truth, that's pretty much it right now. That's the game loop. So you make a character, you level them up, you do all the things I said, you go out, you PvP, you get some stuff to make a better vessel, you have someone craft a better vessel for you, or you do it yourself if you're a necromancer, and then you rinse and repeat. You keep doing it until you get up to, I guess, a legendary vessel, which is the goal, I guess. And you try to get him the best gear you can get on him, which will come from crafters eventually. It won't be found. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. So if this video was helpful to anybody, which I hope it was, I don't know, do whatever you do on YouTube. I don't know, hit some buttons, do some stuff. This is the first time I'm making a video like this. I kind of swore that I would never make a how-to video or a anything video that required any editing. I like to do lazy content. That's kind of my thing, but I tried this, so, maybe I'll do more if people like it, but, who knows? Yeah, see ya. I don't know, see you later.